Okay, hello everybody. This is Jim Collins. Welcome to another episode of Excelsior Capital Partners, the Rising Series podcast. With me today is Rick MacPherson, CEO of Birchtech, and this is actually the third conversation that I'm having for the podcast with Rick, which I think is terrific because that, to me, is a core tenet of successful investing is keeping track of a story. I'm watching a company, especially an emerging growth company like Birchtech, grow. And one of the ways that they do that is obviously capital. And as of this morning, December 18th, Rick will describe how they are getting access or will soon have access to a very important source of capital, which are patent infringement lawsuits, which they have won and are winning. So anyway, sorry, long rambling preamble, but Rick, why don't you tell us about the press release you issued this morning and the next steps in terms of when you'll be in receipt of the funds and what you will use those funds to invest in.
Well, Jim, thanks for having me on your show today. Very much appreciate it. So yeah, as you mentioned, we just received the final judgment notice from the federal court in Delaware that our case is coming to a conclusion. And the final judgment award was the original $57 million that was allotted at trial, at the end of the trial. Plus the judge added to that a special interest charge, which adds another $21+ million to the final settlement, taking us to $78 million in terms of a final settlement. That as well will be added to by daily interest, significant, roughly 14,000 or so per day.
Wow.
until that judgment is paid. So we feel extremely good about the result. It was a long period of endeavor on our part. You know, we previously signed off a dozen or more different licensees and settled with some other groups for a total roughly around $40 million prior to this. So overall, the value of the litigation has proved worthwhile, worth the time and effort to protect our IP and bring this home. And so we're looking forward to moving on into 2026. You mentioned with regards to the collection of the funds, there is a process, of course, Jim, that needs to be followed. The defendants, even though final judgment is in place and interest is accumulating, they do have the right to appeal the decision during that time. And if they choose to do that, then we would have to most likely work through the system to be able to collect funds. And so it'll be interesting to see how it all works out in 2026. But at this point, we're very, very pleased with the settlement itself. With regards to the funds themselves and what they could be used for going forward with the company. As you know, Jim, we've embarked on a very significant move into the water treatment business.
Yes.
We have plans to add to the two facilities that we now have, one operating in North Dakota and the other in Pennsylvania. We'll be expanding those facilities. They're very busy right now doing analytical work and product development work. We will be adding people and more equipment to those and see them as a real profit center in 2026 and beyond.
Right.
Furthermore, we'll be working towards building our reactivation centers that we expect to have planned and constructed and operable by the end of 2026. So although most of the financing for those units will be debt financing, because they'll have a great return on investment, we do anticipate using some of our capital in the building of those facilities. And I have to speak with the board, of course, once funds are collected and make some decisions on whether we would issue any sort of a special dividend or something of that nature. given that most of our shareholders are long-term shareholders that have been with us for many years and stayed with us during the IP and litigation that we had to go through over those
Right.
last 5-6 years. So
it's
that's
been
generally,
yeah.
yeah. So that's generally where we are. Again, news is just fresh in, so we're trying to digest everything. But that's a general sense of where we're going, and we feel very much rejuvenated and ready to head into 26 with our plans well established.
That's terrific, and congratulations. And in terms of the stock, which is ticker symbol BCHT, I should have said that up front. It's had a little bit of a gyration this week, and we were talking earlier about the possibility that people misinterpreted this big windfall judgment on your part as not a great outcome. So what happened with that, and how do you think you can change people's minds other than just getting them to watch this interview? But
yeah, the thing is, I can only speculate. When I go back, for example, to 2024, and where we won at trial, we're awarded the 57 million. The stock trended up quickly, pretty much about $1 a share based on that win. And even though we may have expected that sort of thing to happen at this point in time, if not more, because it's 78 million, a lot of the base of our shareholders at this point are retail shareholders that would not use, a full-fledged attorney especially in that field, in the damages field, to try to figure out what the actual court order meant. And if, for example, you even take the court order and put it in a chat GPT or something, it comes out with a rather negative response. So now that we've had our attorneys do the full calculations and we've produced that in a press release for the market to consume, I expect that the full value of the win that we've had, which is significant, will play its role in the enterprise value as we go forward.
Yep. And I would just say, back to my background as a stock nerd, I mean, if we're talking about 78 million, I would note to the folks viewing this that Birchtech has about 98 million shares basic. So, that's, we're talking about, the better part of 80 cents a share. And BCHT is trading at, like 66 cents as I'm recording this. So if it doesn't compute, it's worth investigating. Anyway, that was an observation, not a question. Sorry, Rick, but.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. But we've got lots of confidence that the enterprise value of the company will reflect a reasonable value as we continue to build the company and grow, especially, when you look at the last quarter's results. We got a very solid quarter going this quarter. We very much expect that the long-term story, which is most important, will stand on its own as we especially go into 26.
Sure. And if you looked at, I was looking at this morning, the last quarter's 10Q, I think it was 7.4 million in revenues.
Correct.
Is that a good running rate, or is there seasonality?
No, that third quarter is probably the biggest quarter annually every year. But the increases that we're showing year over year are significant, and I feel comfortable in saying that we expect to continue showing year over year increases as we go forward.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, I think that the market does eventually realize that. And when you look at, also, I would note that as of the end of the third quarter, unless I read it wrong, you have zero debt.
Correct.
So you talked about the possibility of debt financing as we go into 2026. Would that be to build more facilities on the H2O side, or how would that work strategically?
Yeah. So what we're looking at is building a couple of significant manufacturing plants, and those would be built in conjunction with municipalities.
Sure.
And so we would mostly debt finance those. The very great economics in those on those situations, with about a 3, maybe 4 year at the most payback. So debt financing would make a great deal of sense there. And so no huge amount of CapEx required as we go forward. So the capital that we will have once collection is finished on this judgment can go towards, acquisitions, or just the general build out of our water business. Or like I said, after conversing with the board, perhaps a special dividend of some sort, given the cash on hand.
Okay. Yeah. And that's, as the viewers always know, I'm an income investor at heart. So when you say special dividend or potential special dividend, obviously the board of directors would have to approve that. That makes the antenna go up. And in terms of the competition on the water side, is that sort of local? I mean, I hate this phrase, but sort of mom and pops, or is it larger kind of national or international entities that are doing that sort of filtration?
Yeah, no, it mostly is large national and multinational corporations.
Okay.
But the thing is, for us, Jim, we're an innovative tech company with great skill set in the carbonaceous material world, which is one of the main medium that are used in filtration. So we've been developing some very interesting products, and look forward to introducing those in 2026, along with all of the work that we're doing now with multiple engineering firms across the country to try to help the water utilities figure out how they're going to meet these new PFOS regulations that have been adopted by over half of the states in the country at this point. So very exciting, huge opportunity and challenge in the water industry going forward. And we've been ramping up over these past 3 years to take advantage of that.
And is that kind of a ticking clock, Rick, in terms of the PFO and the PFOS regulations? I mean, is that sort of starting January 1st, 2026, or how does that?
Yeah. So Jim, it's interesting. Similar to the mercury emission controls when they came in, the federal regulations are coming in 2030, 2031. Okay. But in the meantime, just about everybody's starting to do the testing to try to figure out what they're actually going to do to meet the regulations. And over half of the states have taken on state regulations, which are much earlier, some as soon as next year.
Okay.
To be able to take out the PFOS from the water supply. So we're extremely busy right now at our laboratory level doing the water analysis and the product development side with the engineering firms that have hundreds and hundreds of different water utilities that they are providing services to. So we've got a consultant first approach, which puts us in a situation where we do all of the active analysis work with the engineering firm and their client, the water utility, and that puts us in play with them so that eventually when they go to put their solution in place, we're there as part of that solution, and we'll bring our second and third tier level of products to bear at that time. The granular activated carbons and the ability to reactivate their spent carbon. So it's a multi-tiered approach, which we will start into. We've already started into in earnest in the analytical side, but it will transcend into the other two tiers as we go through 26.
Okay, and I think that again, everyone who watches these has heard me talk about technology. My background is an auto analyst, and I think every great technology solves a pressing problem. So that would exclude robotaxis. I'll let that go, but that would include H2O. So maybe Rick, you can just sort of talk about PFOS and what sort of harmful things are in this that we as a society should and could do a better job of eliminating to help public health, which is obviously, MAHA, and it's a big theme these days.
Yeah. So Jim, forever chemicals have been in the news now for this past 2 years quite heavily.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the majority of the water systems in the United States are affected by it. If you want to have your listeners go on our website, in our presentation, there's a map that actually shows all of the PFOS hotspots across the country.
That's helpful.
And so the majority of the 50,000 plus water utilities in the country have a problem. And the citizenry of those utilities have a problem as well. So that's why over half of the states have already taken on regulations to try to eliminate as much as possible the PFOS. The federal government moved theirs out a couple of years, and not because they didn't want to be able to remove it. The present head of EPA for the Trump administration is very adamant about removing PFOS.
Sure.
But the cost is so high to do so because it's such a difficult toxin to remove that they pushed it out rather than put an undue burden on the water utility system. So our objective, similar to what we did in the air side, is to create a technology that would allow the water utilities to remove the PFOS without adding horrendous costs to the processing of the water. And so we think we're on track with that. We think we have solutions, and we are moving forward to introduce those next year. And so I think there's a massive opportunity, not only commercially for us as a company, but for the country as a whole, for us to be able to create safe water in a much more attainable fashion than the present technologies allow for.
And when you and your board are sort of business planning this out, are you thinking in terms of a licensing model, or where you will control the IP and actually provide the service?
A combination, actually, Jim. Through our experience to date, which has been, tens of millions of dollars of legal fees and experience gained over the last decade, we've come up with a hybrid model that we think will work best. And so our key objective is to get this technology in the hands of the water utilities to improve the water system, and simultaneously do it in a way that will benefit our shareholders the most as well.
Sure. I mean, I think that's sort of a mutually beneficial outcome.
Yes.
And in terms of the original business, the mercury side, are you seeing growth there? Or are you as busy in terms of customer inquiries there as you are on the water side?
So that's a mature business. Where our growth will come from on that side of the business, which is presently our core business, is from the settlements that we have had, in particular in 25, put us in position to be able to quote on the supply side of these licensees business going forward. So as their present contracts come to fruition, we'll be able to quote on the new business. And so I expect that our core business, the supply side in the air, will grow nicely in 2026. We've yet to give guidance on that because we don't know exactly what the expectation of new contract replenishment is yet. We'll get a handle on that early in 26, but I do very much expect that our business will grow nicely in 26 and beyond.
Yeah, I think that's when you deal with smaller emerging growth companies, I think all investing is thematic investing, and the theme of cleaner air and cleaner water is hard to top, in my opinion. So then you sort of try to think 3 or 5 years down the road. Rick, do you see Birchtech as part of a larger entity, or you just keep growing for those 3 and 5 years and stacking bricks, if you will?
So I think, Jim, at this point, my response would be we have an extremely competent group of scientists and engineers. We're adding technicians on a regular basis.
Mhm.
We're building out our research and development side, and we'll continue to do that as the tip of the spear as we go forward. And so as we get our first couple of plants up and running, we've designed them in a way that we'll be able to add to them nicely, both in size themselves and also multiply them throughout different regions. So I very much expect that we'll continue to grow the company for the next 3 to 5 years ourselves.
Okay.
I think there is possibly some
Organic.
acquisition potential for us as well, given the cash position we'll be in. And I really don't know beyond that point where we'll go, other than I think there's a huge opportunity for us to grow into a $300, $400, $500 million firm annually.
Okay. So generating 3 to 400 million in annual revenues, is it?
Correct.
Okay. We will hold to that. YouTube is forever, believe me.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to coming back with the realities of that. But the manpower is there, the know-how is there, the opportunity is there, the funding should be there. So it's just a matter of getting it done.
And is that, so if we went to your facilities, which I'd love to do someday,
Sure.
is this kind of like a white lab coat type of personnel, or is it?
Yes.
Is there a lot of AI that you're using that is sort of doing the work that
No,
you used to do, or how does that?
we utilize it. We utilize AI, but what we're doing is groundbreaking research and development work, and very, very specific but strong analytical services that we're providing.
Okay.
And we have put the facilities in place in such a way that they are really at the head of the industry in terms of capacity and control. So we really feel very good about our relationships with the large engineering firms that we've developed, and our ability to provide them the very best in PFOA, PFAS analytical skills.
Okay. And it almost seems as if you mentioned the facilities in North Dakota and Pennsylvania. Is that kind of a modular design? Would that be very quick to put one
No,
in
they're
or wherever?
they're actually stable facilities that we will just add people and equipment to.
Okay.
They're actually in the midst of doing that right now due to the demand and the production capacity of these facilities is massive compared to the size of them due to the way that they have been strategically put together.
Okay. Yeah. So then I think that becomes a strategic advantage for Birchtech.
Yes.
The physical facilities are, I don't think they're as important as the IP, but you can't really do one without the other.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're ahead of the curve there.
Yeah. So our ability to be able to demonstrate exactly what we can do for a water utility in real terms in real time is extremely valuable, and huge cost savings compared to the traditional approach of months and months long testing in the field. We can get real field test results in a couple of weeks versus 2-3 months.
Okay.
And so there's a huge cost saving, and there's an advantage of being able to make decisions quicker rather than having to wait and worry, as most of them have had to do.
So is it that granular that someone from a utility can literally walk into your facility with a vial, vial is not the right word, but a container or something,
Sure.
and you can just map it out?
Yeah. So what we do right now, quite quickly, is we take water samples, we take carbon samples, we take spent carbon samples,
Okay.
and we do a complete analysis and workup of the options that they would have and the economics of those to be able to move forward with different solutions. and then we provide that back to them along with the support to the engineering firm that they've got working for them in order to be able to see that right through to an actual operation on the ground at the utility. And so that's something that's extremely valuable to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when people ask me, and they have, since we've done 2 of these, and this is number 3 conversation about Birchtech, it almost seems to me that it really is a consulting firm with the knowledge of IP that most consulting firms don't have. Is that fair, or is that
Yeah, I would say that
small?
we're a technology company that's proven to be very successful, disruptive, and commercially viable, that also offers that know-how and service out through multiple tiers, engineering firms, other consultants and such, right through to the end user. So we can be used in a multiple of different ways, and the value can be taken in a multiple different ways as well, which makes us very unique and different from, say, a large commodity supplier of activated carbons. And so we will be supplying medium eventually starting in 26. However, our core strength is helping the utilities understand what they should be doing and how they can be doing it best, rather than just sourcing and selling product. We will source and sell product, but that will be on the back of a very strategic plan of being able to get the best job done possible.
Okay, and who are those large suppliers of the activated carbon?
It's your typical commodity sellers at this point would be the largest, of course, is Calgon Carbon.
Okay.
And then Norris would be the second largest. And then there are multiple of other small suppliers. And these companies, although they have, seminars and teach-ins and things of that nature, and are very active socially on the web, talking about their services, their core business is to produce and sell product. Our core business is produce and sell solutions.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a very important differentiation.
Yes.
And we're bumping up on the half hour here. So
Sure.
The last topic I wanted to cover was back to BCHT. And in our last conversation, we talked about uplisting and the potential for doing that. And so as we're looking at the calendar, it's December 18th. Where do we stand on that in terms of timing and, year end and quarters and all those things?
Yep. So at this point in time, all of the work is being done to facilitate an uplisting on the New York Stock Exchange.
Okay.
That has not been completed yet. That has not been approved yet by the NYSE, but we're very well down the path in the process, which was delayed somewhat because of the government outage.
Yes. Yeah.
Happened just as we filed.
And I've heard that from so many CEOs.
By the time they opened back up, they had 900 files in front of them. But the SEC.
Yeah.
But we were fortunate in the expeditious way that the SEC reviewed our file. And so I very much expect that we should be able to conclude a complete uplisting to the New York Stock Exchange by the end of January. That would be my expectation. It may take a week longer, but my expectation at this point would be by the end of January, which will really make a difference to the company and its shareholders. The company has never been really available to institutional investors because it was only on the OTC.
Retail based.
So I think there's an opportunity for a significant improvement in exposure and liquidity and things of that nature once the institutional investors are able to have a real firm look at what we're doing, where we're going, and the value proposition that we present.
Yeah, that would be great. We would love to, as a New Yorker, we would love to have you here in the city at NYC, which is one of my favorite buildings in the world. So
Yes.
that would be an excellent outcome.
Yes.
So this has been great. Thank you again, Rick. And as I said, it's great to hear a story evolve. And I know that takes no small amount of management effort. So congratulations.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Thanks for your time.
Chatting with you again after we get on the NYSE.
Absolutely. Let's keep it going. And happy holidays. Have a great Christmas.
Thank you very much. Likewise.
All right, Rick. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.